everybody, I'm Lis. Come on a journey with me and you can see how I see. In touch. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm working again with the Instant Pot. I'm going to backtrack a little bit because in the previous episodes I did an unboxing episode where I just checked out the pot in general to see how accessible I thought it would be to the blind. And then in the next one I did my first meal, but I never really properly oriented you to all of the parts and all of the buttons on the Instant Pot. So that's what I'm going to do today. This is the Instant Pot Duo Evo Plus. So if you have a different model, you may find some differences, but I'm going to go ahead and show us the Duo Evo Plus. All right, I'm going to start with the lid. The lid has a large, wide handle at the top, obviously used for lifting the lid. Behind the lid is the panel that houses all of the steam-related components of the pot. This is the part that gets really hot. All right, so on the far left of this back panel is the steam cover. And it comes off, and the purpose of this cover is to help disperse the steam. It sort of softens the steam flow as it comes out. Below that is the steam valve. It does have a little give to it. It wiggles a little bit. That's normal. It also comes out. The purpose of the valve is to release the steam. All right. Below that is the steam pipe. And the pipe runs from the pot to the outside of the pot to release the steam. On the inside of the lid behind that pipe, there's a little protrusion here. It is called the shield. And the purpose of that is to keep the food from coming up into the steam pipe. You want your steam to come out, but not your soup. All right, I'm going back to the top side. I'm still in this back part behind the handle. To the right of the steam valve is a small hole, and this is the float valve, and I'm kind of moving the valve up and down. You can hear it, you should be able to see it. And the purpose of the float valve, it helps with the pressurizing of the pot. And when the pot gets to full pressure and it starts cooking, you'll hear it snap into place. It makes a really distinct sound. It makes that little click. I'm going to show you on the inside of the lid where the valve is. It has a silicone cap on it that you can feel or see. And again, that's just to seal it, to keep any food from coming up into that float valve. All right, let's come back to the top side again. To the right of the float valve is the steam release switch. If it is slid toward the back of the pot, it is on seal. This is where it would be when you're going to do your pressurized cooking. If you don't have it set to that, the steam will just keep coming out and you won't get to full pressure. When you finish a recipe, lots of times it'll ask for you to do a natural release, and that's where you keep this vent closed, you keep it to sealed, and you just allow the pot to cool down naturally. At the end of that process, your recipe may instruct you to do a quick release. And the way you do that is you slide this switch toward the front of the pot to vent, and when you do that, a lot of steam comes out through this steam pipe into the steam valve and through the cover, which I'm replacing. All right, it makes a lot of noise. Obviously, you want to have your hands away from this float valve and this steam valve get very hot. All right, so it's seal if you push it toward the back and vent if you push it toward the front. All right, that finishes everything that's in that back part of the Instant Pot lid. Underneath the handle is this square plastic vent cover, and there's a tab at the front of the top of the lid that sticks up, and if you hook your finger under that and push back and pull up, and you would be pulling it towards you, I'm working from behind, and that cover comes off. And underneath here, this metal plate gets very, very hot, this metal plate underneath the handle. But there's another part that you can buy. It's an optional part, and it's a tray that fits inside this cavity underneath the handle, and you can put ice in it, and it helps to cool the pot down faster. I think it's called a quick cooling tray. Ooh, I don't have one of those, so I can't show it to you. All right, on the back, coming out of the sides of the back of the lid are fins that stick out, and there's one on the left and one on the right, and you can fit this into the groove on the back of the crock pot. So when you lift the lid, and you can stand the lid up on the back of the crock pot so it stays open. And you could do that on the left side or the right side of your pot. Now, I will tell you that when this is in this position where it's upright, open, if you were to bump this, your pot is not as stable. It's kind of lifting up, like it could get knocked over. So just be mindful that this could be a tipping hazard. So be very careful with that. All right, we're gonna go back to the inside of the lid, and running around the inside perimeter of the lid is a metal bar. It's called the sealing rack, and we have a rubber sealer that fits around that rack. The purpose of this sealer is to allow you to get an airtight seal between the lid and the pot. Super, super important for getting the pressurized cooking, of course. This ring is a circle, as most rings are, and it has a groove that runs around the inside of the circle, and that fits the bar, or the rack goes into that ring. So you put the ring in between that rack and the outside inner edge of the pot lid. Now, these rings kind of pick up the smell of whatever you've cooked. So even though we've soaked it and washed it, this ring has a little hint of roast smell to it. So I was reading that you want to have different rings for different types of cooking. So you might use this one that I have for my roast and maybe making chili, soup, stews, those kinds of things. But then have a separate ring that I could use for making my yogurt or my rice, things like that, so that this flavor that kind of gets soaked up in the form of an odor doesn't somehow get into your food. Check with your manual and see how often you're supposed to replace these rings. I'm sure it depends on how much you're using your Instant Pot, but I think it said at least once a year. So check that out. Put in the comments what you find. Do a little fact checking for me there. All right, on the inside of the lid, there is here it is, a lock. It's a metal pin. There, you can see I'm pushing it out. When you put this onto the pot and you rotate it into position, this pin comes out and helps to lock it. It's a safety feature so that the pot does not come open by mistake during the cooking. All right, I think that's everything for the lid. I'm gonna set that down there. Now we'll move on to the base. On the base in the back is the power cord. Now in the manual it says that this power cord can be removed, and if you can remove it, you're gonna have to, there's some screws down here at the bottom that looks like that would have to come out. I don't think this comes out easily or perhaps at all. So maybe that's a different model. And it has this guide here that you can also hook your cord into. Above the power cord, almost to the top of the pot, is this plastic reservoir. And running around the edge here of the pot is this channel. It's a condensation catcher. So condensation runs into this channel and comes down and collects in this little chamber. So you would have to empty that out occasionally. There's going to be water in there. All right, that's what's on the back. I'll flip us back around here. On the front, the main part of the front of the base is the control panel, and we'll get to all of that in detail in just a moment. Inside, and there's nice handles on the outside of the base if you had to move and carry this. All right. On the inside of the base is the outer pot. It does not lift out. It's just built into the base. This is where the heating elements are. And in the very bottom, about the size of a quarter, it sticks up, I don't know, not a ½ inch, but it's more than a quarter of an inch. It sticks up, and when you put the inner pot inside here, that pushes that down, and that's a switch to indicate, let the pot know that the inner pot has been inserted. All right, so I think that's everything there. Let me show you the inner pot. All right, the inner pot is made out of stainless steel, and the bottom of it is made where you can obviously put it in your Instant Pot, but this also will work on your stove. You can put it on a gas burner, an electric burner, or on a flat surface electric stove. All right, on the inside are the lines. This is a 6-quart pot, and each inch of this comes out to be about a quart of the pot. These lines are, this pot is silver, the lines are black. If you have low vision, you may be able to see those lines. If you have no vision, you cannot feel these lines. These are not raised. If Instant Pot had gone with universal design, there would be indented lines or possibly raised lines, but that's not the case. So when you use the Instant Pot, you have to be careful that you don't overfill your pot with liquid. It can't go above. There's a maximum fill line here. Now, there's a couple ways you could do this, and part of it is you're going to be measuring what you're putting into it. So you would not exceed things if you're measuring correctly. For me, that maximum fill line is about at the tip of my index finger. If I have my finger, reaching from the top down to the bottom. I do have a measuring tape. If I had a Braille ruler, which I will go ahead and get, you can get a plastic one. I could make it my kitchen ruler, and I could wash that up easily. I know because that 4 inches from the bottom is the maximum fill line. So I could put my ruler, or in this case my tape measure, in the bottom and measure up 4 inches and be at or very near that line. Okay, so that's another way. Now, for me, it's easier to measure from the top down, so I could actually use a ruler or my tape measurer to measure 2 inches from the top. What I did figure out, I always try to come up with like easier, faster ways or creative ways. This is a card I have. It's the size of a credit card. The short edge is just a little bit more than 2 inches. It's 2 1/8 inches. So that would be slightly below that fill line. It would be better to be slightly under the line than to be slightly over it. But you could put the edge of the card near, at the top of the pot, reach down, find the edge of that card, and then pull the card back and know that that's what you would have to fill up to. You couldn't exceed that level. All right, so in some cases we can use like puffy paint or glue or tape or something to mark a fill line, but this gets to extreme heat and extreme pressure, so I don't feel comfortable recommending that type of modification for marking the lines. And I've just told you where the maximum fill line is. You could measure out to find out where those other lines are and use a similar process. All right, when we put the Instant Pot when we put the inner pot into the outer pot, the handles line up with openings in the inner pot, and they are immediately to the left and right of the pot. You know, if you put it in like this, it's not lined up correctly. So you want to lower it into those guides to keep it in place. The handles on the inner pot have silicone on them, obviously for handling it when it's hot. All right, in my previous video, I was not brilliant in the way I communicated how you can line this lid up with the base. So I'm going to show you what I discovered. Here on the top of the lid, there is a raised vertical line, and there's like an arrow thing above it. To the left it says open, and to the right it says close. And I actually can feel those raised print letters. Depends on how sensitive somebody's sense of touch is, but they could feel the writing even if they couldn't read it. But there's a raised vertical line, and then on the outside of the outer pot there is a raised vertical line. And if you line those up, so move my fingers, here's the one on the lid and here's the one on the pot, that lined it up. You heard the that means I have the lid in the correct place. And when I turn that clockwise or to the right, righty-tighty, that closes and closes the lid and will lock it in place. All right, so that's much easier. I talked before about you could feel back here where the fins are and try to line it up. The fins do cover the fin slots when they're in the right place, those kinds of things. But honestly, lining these vertical lines up was so much easier. All right, we're gonna go ahead and zoom the camera in and orient you to the display panel. And we'll zoom in so you can see it better. The control panel and the display are located on the front of the base. The display itself is about 3 inches by 3 inches, and it's a blue background with white writing. The letters are about 1 inch tall, so someone with low vision may be able to read it just fine. At the top of the display, it says Instant Pot, has the trademark, and then below that in smaller writing, it says Duo Evo Plus. Below that is the status line, and it shows if the sound is on or off. The default is for it to be on, which I recommend. It also will tell you if there's a delay start set, if there's a keep warm set, and it tells you if you're in Fahrenheit or Celsius. The default is Fahrenheit. The next line down on the display is the progress bar. It's divided into 3 pieces. On the left-hand side, it has 3 bars that equal the preheating. Then there's a space, and it has the cook time. It's a little bit wider, it's 4 pieces. And then the right hand side of the progress bar is the keep warm, and it's the length of the preheat. It's 3. Below that line is the timer display, and it will show the cooking time, or if you're waiting to start cooking, it will show the delay time, the time before the delay starts. And if you're keeping warm, it will show you how long you've been in that keeping warm time. The next line down shows the pressure level. It might say none if you're slow cooking or sauteing, steaming. There's not going to be any pressure, or it might show low pressure or high. And then the bottom line is the temperature, which will either show as a custom temperature or low or high. All right, I'm going to hit cancel here because I'm getting quite a bit of steam. To the left of the display is a column of 4 buttons. They're about the size of a dime. They are raised up. You can feel them very easily. And these are how you select the cooking mode. The top left button is pressure cook. They are silver buttons with black writing, and if you select one of them, then the light above them turns on. Below pressure cook, the second button down is rice and green. The third button on the left is steam. And the bottom button on the left-hand side of the display is saute. On the right-hand side of the display is another column of 4 buttons, the same type as those on the left, and these are the remaining cooking modes. The top one on the right is slow cook. The one below that is sous vide. The one below that is yogurt. And the final button on the right is bake. Kind of curious about this yogurt and baking. I'm interested to check that out. That seems a little different to me. All right, there's a couple more buttons on here. At the bottom is a dial. It's a little bit bigger than a quarter in its size. This is how you select things like your time, your temperature, your pressure, and you do that by turning it. It turns clockwise or counterclockwise. Unfortunately, if you turn it one direction and then the other, it doesn't have like a stopping point. I wish you could turn it all the way to the left and know exactly where you're starting and count up from there. But you, as you turn it, here, let me select our pressure cook here. It goes to custom, and as you turn it, I'm turning it to the right clockwise. Each click, that's soup. The next one is bean. As I'm turning that, it beeps, so that helps you know where you are in the menu. And then if you turn back to the left or counterclockwise, it beeps that direction as well. So you do get, there's a tactile kind of clicking in feel, and you get the beeping, so that helps. To the left of the dial are 2 buttons. They're arranged vertically. The top one is delay start, and the one below that, this is the only one that's red, and it says cancel. It's a good button to know. So the bottom left is cancel. And then there's 2 buttons on the right of that dial. The top one is keep warm, and the bottom right is another important button. It's start. Now when I hit start, nothing happened because right now I haven't selected anything that I'm telling it to do. All right, so that's the control panel. I wanted to show you a couple things. It is definitely up to full pressure. It's been cooking for a while. And I talked to you about that safety pin that locks it. You can tell I'm turning it and it doesn't open. So that's a safety issue. And also like this, feeling this part, this is warm but not burny warm at all. I'm going to keep my hands away from the back part where the steam is. I want to show you what it's like when you do the quick release. Lots of steam there. Obviously something to be far away from when you release it. I didn't go into any details about the smart programs. Each of those settings that I showed you with the pressure cook, the steam, the sous vide, all of those settings, each of those has a menu of many options that are presets. So it will have an item and have a temperature and a pressure that are associated with that item, so you can choose that quickly. So you could go to pressure cook and then select soup, and it would automatically select the time and the temperature that you needed for soup. So in my next video, which will be season 1, episode 7, I'll go into all of those smart menus. I'll go through step by step and tell you what each one does so that you can set it independently, even if you can't see the display. So until then, keep cooking. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for coming by to check out my video. If you liked it, go ahead and click the like button, and you might want to subscribe to my channel, and you can ring the bell so you get a notification when the next video comes out. If you need to get in touch with me, maybe you want to make a request or you want to check on booking for an event, you can shoot me an email. It's Lis, L-I-S, sings for you, and the 4 is a word, not a number, @gmail.com. Hope to hear from you soon. Bye!